And now to our final masterclass of Wish 2020, which is from an Omani artist, designer and activist. Safiya Al-Bahlani has won critical acclaim and inspired many people with her personal journey about how art has helped her overcome some of the physical challenges of her life. She also advocates for people with special needs. And here she is with her masterclass.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope you are doing well. Art is a huge print on my life, and because what you don't know is, it's true I have physical disabilities, but I also have learning disabilities. And what that means is I cannot memorize like 2 or 3 steps at a time. And from a very, very, very young age, I have learned to use patterns and colors to help me with my daily life. At the age of 3, and right before that, I used to live in a hospital. And I saw all these different faces. And as you know, in a hospital, there is people going and people coming. And you have all sorts of people. And something about their faces really drew me in. And I felt like I wanted to do something with it. So I started drawing faces, and I felt like it wasn't good enough. It wasn't like the actual person in front of me. So I used to scrunch it up and throw it in the garbage. Later on, when I started school, and I was struggling with the academic part of it, I used to sit in the back of the class and just take out my crayons and scribble and scribble and scribble. And some of these scribblings actually helped me to understand what, the subject was about. And sometimes this was just frustrations of not being able to keep up and understand what the topic was. As I started jumping into higher grades, I found it started becoming a huge struggle. By 3rd grade, I remember a very small story where I was in the art class and we were asked to represent Ramadan. And the way we had to do it was we had to do cut out pieces of paper and stick it on a different paper and show different shapes. And I couldn't use the scissors. My hands were too big to fit the holes of the scissors. So I went up to the teacher and I said, I can't do this exercise. And she didn't know what to tell me. She didn't want to jump in and just help me. So she said, think of a way. So in that 40 minutes of class, I just sat there thinking, what am I going to do? I started seeing the students throw down the papers that they didn't need after they have cut it up. I started collecting all these papers and I put them into my artwork just to create the scenery that I needed, and I handed it in. By teenage years, or beginning of teenage years, I desperately wanted to be accepted, and I felt like I wasn't. And everything was a big no when I wanted to participate in different activities in school. So I used to come home and collect all my stuffed animals, my toys, my Barbie dolls. And each one of them was me. And I would sit there and I would draw them. And I would pretend all the activities that I couldn't do in school, I would do it in this audition at home. As years went by, I started moving away from drawing people and started focusing more on landscapes. And the reason why was I was frustrated. I felt like, why do I have to push very hard to get noticed? And also as a teenager, it was very hard to fit in. If you weren't wearing the same clothes, or if you weren't using the same things as your peers, it was very hard to get accepted then. And so I used to come home every single day, open the fashion TV, and I'd sit there and I would sketch different things. And as you notice, it's also a representation of myself, whether they didn't have a leg or they didn't have hands. I just wanted to feel like that was me and I could do whatever I want in the art world. As years went by, I started shifting into designing things like pottery. How would it look with a design of mine with little patterns? But slowly, I still kept moving on to landscapes and sceneries. And for the longest part, I just didn't feel like I could connect in drawing people. In my very last years of schooling, I got the biggest support that I needed, because during my teenage years, I had to jump schools to find the right school that would support me due to my learning disability. And so in my last 2 years of high school, I moved to the American International School of Muscat. And I got a big support in trying to finish my academics, but also really pushing me to do better in arts. And that's when I realized this is the direction I really want to go in, because I felt art would be my backbone in anything that I do. So when I graduated from high school, I took graphic design, thinking it's just design. There's nothing more to it. Little did I know, of course, there's a lot to it. There's still math. There's still ways of figuring out how things lay out. It's not just putting colors and designing. And in the beginning, everything was still very theoretical, and I found it really, really challenging. I got an opportunity to study in Jordan, and the first 2 semesters I joined a regular college, and I was falling back and I was almost failing because I wasn't able to keep up with the theory part of the studies. I then left that college and I went into Sound, Audio, and Engineering Institute, where I didn't need books. I didn't need to memorize so much things. It was just me and my creativity and what I can do with it. And I took animation. I went on with my animation classes, but I didn't want to lose my art, like my craftsmanship and drawing. So I started self-learning in the beginning and trying to learn and get all the basics right again. And while I was doing this, I came across a wonderful local artist there, and he really worked with me. And the 3 years that I was studying in Jordan, I really boosted up my paintings as well. Now, what you also don't know is I also have a neurological problem, which is called myoclonus. It's also similar to epilepsy. And during actually my last years of high school is when I got it. I had to repeat a semester of high school. So in my second year of college, I got the symptoms again very severely, and I had to kind of pull out from college for a couple months. But it didn't stop anything. I had the best support of team that used to even come home. We used to do the video chats just so that I could just be on top of where I need to be. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish my studies, but I couldn't leave Jordan just like that. With the support of friends and family, I did my first solo exhibition in Jordan. And I really focused on traditional things that come from Amman in this exhibition. When I came back to Amman, I realized I wasn't able to continue studies, but I thought with my portfolio, I can get a job. So I started job hunting and going from one interview into another. And nobody wanted to accept me then because they didn't know how to deal with me. So I said, the only way I can change people's minds is by creating more art. So for 2 years, all I did was really focus on different types of art. And I just was trying to improve my craftsmanship. Mid-2011, I came across a Armani fashion designer. And we worked together while she created the fashion and I designed the artworks. And this really enlightened me more. And I said, I can do more than just putting color on a canvas. What about textures? How can I collaborate that? How can I challenge myself a bit more and see beyond? When we had this exhibition, people started saying, did you hear about that girl? The girl that doesn't have fingers, she draws. It was nice to know that people started recognizing me for the work that I do, but I didn't want them to just look at my disability. I wanted them to look at what I am capable of doing and what I can contribute to. So I had more exhibitions over the years, one after another. And also during this time, I started doing a lot of public speaking and talking about my story and sharing. And I can't tell you how much that has made a big difference. During this time also, I was introduced to the iPad. And a very good friend of mine played a bet with me when the iPad first came out. He said, if you manage to create, you would go beyond. And I didn't really think, I never really imagined what he saw. And he used to come home every single day just to try to convince me to get the iPad. And of course it wasn't working. So then he said, if I convince your mom to get an iPad, would you get one? And I said, well, my mom's not going to get a new gadget. Okay, let's see how it goes. So one evening, he left the iPad on the coffee table. And I looked into this program, and I was really engaged with the colors and brushes and textures and so on. And I started creating, and this is one of the first artworks I made. And I realized the time I really put into this took less time than if I actually made this traditionally. So then the next week, my mom eventually got an iPad, and I took it from her, and I started creating more artworks, one after another. And then I got an offer to actually create like live in front of different types of people at Muscat Festival. And in the beginning, I found it very intimidating. Like, how can I draw in front of all these people? But what really pushed me, I said, I'm not just doing this for me. I am doing this for every person that keeps being judged and says, oh, poor you can't do this, or you can't do that. Yes, we can if you only give us a platform and a chance to do something. After that, I still felt like I needed to prove myself as an artist as well. So in a very short period of time, about 2 months, I worked in creating 100 pieces of artwork, all focused on Omani clothing and texture. And I sat there in creating different types of paintings. Now, if you remember earlier, I told you that for a while I removed myself from drawing people because I was very frustrated. While I was doing all these exhibitions and starting getting recognized as Safiya, but not just the person without hands, I realized one of the fears that I had, I really needed to overcome. So I started asking friends and family to send over their pictures so I can work on doing portraits. I gave myself a challenge of working on this for a year or two. And I would do nothing but really try and work on my craftsmanship. And slowly that created another platform for me where then people started asking me and commissioning me to do their portraits. Then I asked myself, what's next? Now, during this time, I worked for a film production for almost a year and a half. And it gave me a chance to know what I really wanted to do and how I saw myself in the next 5 years. I took a step and I left the company and I became a freelancer for a few years. I realized that if I worked as a full-time person in this company, I wouldn't be able to give and teach and give back to society in other ways. So as a freelancer, I started gathering kids and I was teaching them in my own kitchen. I wasn't teaching them to make just the perfect picture of drawing, but I was teaching them how you can express and how you can learn from the artwork that you do. I started with 5 kids, and after 4 years, I managed to build an art studio and an art gallery where we started functioning as a business. With my art on the side, I started also using art to put smiles on people's faces. I wanted my art not to just express how I felt inside, but for people to be able to connect and feel something good. The reason, if you notice, I don't use features in my artwork is because every person in this artwork is a representation of self. And I see people around the world as people from the inside and not really what you look like. And that is what I have been trying to focus with my artwork. I started branching off, not just doing paintings, but I also do graphic design, where I do a lot of logos and brandings and social media posters. I also try to do designs on packages, merchandises. And today I can say that if when I was younger I had stopped doing art, I wouldn't have managed to get to where I am today, because art to me is not just about pretty pictures, as I always say, but to me it has helped me go through my ups and downs, but it has helped me function with my everyday activities. Another question that people tend to ask is, why do I just focus on Armani art? And the reason is because it is the closest to me, but it is not just about Armani art. There are specific lines and specific patterns that I relate to as symbols for me. For example, when I use circles, for me, it means to keep going. When I use triangles, it means that there are challenges, but you just need to keep going. So there are certain patterns within the artwork that I use that actually mean specific meanings to me. Yeah. So you're welcome to ask me questions if you would like. So one of the first questions is art one of the few things in life that doesn't discriminate? I suppose so, but obviously there are guidelines and rules, and it depends on you as an artist if you want to use these guidelines and rules, or if you're just using it to express yourself. The second question is, what do you aspire to do next? What is your dream? So my next dream is to actually focus on helping other artists with disability in building that confidence in them and being able to express and use that platform in various ways. What advice would you give someone thinking of taking up art as a hobby but think they can't for whatever reason? You have to try. You have to start from somewhere. If we continue to just think about it and not really start, you won't be able to know if you're really good at this thing or if it's good for you. It feels like you leave a blank in every picture. Example, not putting faces. What does this symbolize? So it symbolizes a person's identity inside of a person, rather than what features, what color their eyes are or what color their hair is. So that's the reason why I do faceless people. Who is your role model? So my role model is actually two people, not just one. The first person is my mother. She has been my backbone and has pushed me. She has never allowed me to say no. And that has led me to keep trying and trying and trying. And the second person, and I know you might be surprised, is myself, because I always tell people it's okay to choose you as your own role model, because nobody really knows you as much as you do. And you're the only one that can push yourself every day to do something. So I really believe in you as being your own role model. So I just wanted to say, well done. This is very interesting portfolio. Did you initially want to pursue art as a degree? And if yes, has this professionally route offered you more freedom and agency in your personal life? Yes. I always wanted to do art, and I think I am privileged and blessed to be able to use this in my personal and my professional life as well. Happy Oman National Day. Great to hear about your story and fabulous work. What are your next steps during COVID-19? Happy National Day, Omani National Day to everyone. So right now, I mean, although it is a challenge with COVID, it has been also a blessing for me because I have been trying to relearn and understand how I can use art digitally on digital platforms rather than just products and whatnot. Is there a point at which you want to be seen solely as an artist rather than a disabled artist, or do you feel you have responsibility? You have a responsibility to always mention your disability as a way of empowering others living with disability? That's a very good question. Actually, a few years ago and up till end of last year, I was struggling whether I should recognize myself as a person with disability artist or should I separate the two. And I tried very hard for so many years to separate Safiya, the person with disability, and art. And I realized that is a big mistake because if you look at any artist, you would want to understand why they are creating such, why they're creating such different types of art, or what was he thinking. And disability is part of me. It is my fingerprint, and I cannot separate it from my art because there will always be something in the art related to that. So yes, it's actually foremost for me, and then it is for trying to boost other people with disability and just loving and embracing who they are. My son is autistic. He works in IT and wants to do more, but struggles and often feels very tired and defeated. What would you say to him, please? Never, never, never give up. It's okay to feel tired, and it is okay to feel like you don't want to do the next step. But if you don't do it, nobody else will. And I feel like every one of us has to play our part because I feel like we all have a mission, and we are all leaders, and we all need to take that role that was given to us to move forward. Other than art, what do you like to do in your spare time? So I love, love, love swimming. I love reading. I love watching movies. I love singing. So these are the things I like to do in my spare time. Oh, and of course, having lots and lots of coffee. Are you in a wider network of artists, and do you support each other? I am not in the very widest network, but yes, I am in a network, and I try my best to support other artists. But within this network, I think we are doing our best to support one another. What can we do as a global health community to encourage art as a form of therapy? I think more advocacy or educational materials starting from school, because I still see, even when I do teach some kids, that some parents don't see it as something really serious. They think it's just a phase, or art is just, something that you just go through and then it's done. So I think starting from schools, it would be really important, and like helping children utilize art more and more. What can we do? Sorry. Is there enough government funding for the arts? I think we are getting better. I think we are being more aware about the importance of art. We're not really there yet, but we are, I think, much better than where we were. Is there enough funding from the government for art, and will this suffer from the COVID response? Unfortunately, no, there isn't. But I think we are all struggling. It's not just art from the COVID response. Are there any other forms of art that you enjoy other than painting? Yes, I love poetry, and along with my art, I do love to write poetry for myself, and I enjoy doing journal entries, short stories, and I really love singing. I don't have the very best voice, but I really enjoy it. I find it also very therapeutical, but also very soothing. Thank you for such an incredible webinar. You are a unique and beautiful, and your life is wise words, so inspiring. Thank you all for watching and listening. Attitudes in the region and other countries, have you seen a difference? Well, a few years ago, I was in an art retreat with British Council, and they have put together a program for artists with disability for the GCC, and as well as other artists like from the UK. And that really opened my eyes because it basically made me realize I'm not alone, and there's everybody who is doing this, and together it boosted everybody's energy to just keep doing what they want to do. So yes, it made a huge difference. Yeah. I think it's always good to reach out and have support because it just makes things much easier for you to know that you have others going through the same thing. Is there anything you won't paint? If so, why? Well, actually, I haven't really thought of that. Is there anything I won't paint? No, there isn't anything I won't paint. I'm always up for trying something different and something new. I also think that though I'm promoting using art therapy, I also think if you have a specific hobby and you really feel connected to it, keep going, don't stop it, because if it makes you feel good, then why not? Do you paint when you're happy, and how does it affect your mood? Well, in the beginning, I never used to paint when I'm very happy because I felt like the artwork wasn't strong enough. And I only used to paint when I was frustrated. And it goes along with also my writings and my poetry. But now I think it is important to see all directions. And it, it does affect my mood, but I mean, it shows in the colors that I use. Do you express your sadness or anger through art? How do these paintings differ from the ones you paint when you're happy? So the artworks that I create when I'm sad, it doesn't project a specific topic or a thing. It actually projects different. It projects different um, um, colors or different types of texture or different types of thickness I use in the actual colors. Whereas when I'm happy, I guess I focus more on patterns and more depth or specific messages. So I wanted to thank everyone who has watched this. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing my story with you. And I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe.